identify layers too, so I can identify a parcel, I can identify some of the other layers that we have up there, so I can identify a culvert, whatever that information behind the scenes is, the data behind the scenes is.
So anyone can go on the website and pull up this map and do that and choose the layers and get a map based on that?
Correct. Yes. So all the links, Josh has the links, and I can send them out to the appropriate folks. So there are drafts, they're working documents, and obviously we want to roll them out, but we make decisions. And we'll start taking those feedbacks and start working with staff to tailor this data set. So you can measure on there, you can find it. The nice part is people can start overlaying their own layers, make their own selections, and then print their own maps.
A lot of times we ask people to give us a plot map for something that they're going to turn into the counter so they can go on the website actually and pull up their parcel and print that off and then draw whatever they need to draw.
That'd be great. So moving to the other tab, which is an internal type function, is one of the functions that we do regularly is to create that, look up the mailing list for notifications. So you have a project going on, you have a situation where you need to notify someone within a certain vicinity. This site is set up, so typically we would just request it, here's the APN number, and we need, within a 100-foot buffer or a certain buffer or within every adjacent parcel, and we need that list created. And most of my office has just done that and sent it back. Well, now this also can be done internally. Yes. So another option of this would be to do the reverse dial 911, so something that Josh had set up that's not spatial. I mean, you can still use information created, but now you can make it spatial correct. You can draw you can draw potential fire perimeter and notify. You can draw emergency perimeter and notify those people. It's nothing's automated. It will just give you the list to either mail merge or a list of numbers to actually start back.
That's very nice, and we can also just send out letters to parcels if we wanted to take, for instance, the downtown, pull the downtown, we can send out letters, postcards, whatever we need to do that way. So it's very good. And back in the old days, we used to do these mail lists by hand. So this is a big time saver.
And so this is, the interaction with this is where you start to improve those address point files. So for the City of Chico, been utilizing this for a little while, and not this system because they don't have it yet, but just the address interaction that we've had with them from their mailings. And so when the post office sends back the mailings to their office, we actually go in the data and correct it saying no one lives there anymore, it's a vacant address, it's whatever's to update that address, so you start saving on postage that way. They were starting to realize a much higher rate of actual accomplishment. So when they were notifying people, they weren't stamping hundreds of things that were going over. So to quickly go over it, if there's any questions.
What's this roll out?
This is the base is out now. It's working. It's functioning. It's ready for review. We've already had some today. Susan had some great reviews. She reviewed it today, especially this one, which you interact with. And I think once we decide on the next steps, we'll have a better idea of when something will happen.
So you kind of go through the steps. If a lot line change happens on a parcel, you're notified from the town on that information, and then how long does it take for it to happen? Or can it?
For data updates?
Yeah.
It depends the source. So if it's an assessor's office function, we wait for the assessor. So there's a good month delay there. Everything else is as quickly as it's sent from the town. So when there's a new address assignment, it's basically the next day.
And didn't you say that some of that now, where we send it to you for you to update, we can do in-house?
Not the data updates. We still maintain the data updates, but as far as the functions, as far as looking up things or looking to see if we're correct, sometimes an update goes unseen for a while because we don't have it always spatial in a map. If we weren't using the viewers that we're sending out, then I think one of the comments today was the fire stations are mislabeled because of the change that happened. So, yeah, so that's a good way to double check the data.
Josh or Al can answer this. With our City Watch program, does this information get updated to our contractor
It does, usually monthly. I get a download of the 911 data, and I take information from the GIC and upload it into City Watch.
So we're utilizing it in that area.
Yeah, and same thing when we switch to Cassidian, it'll be the same data that the GIC provides. We'll give it to Cassidian, and they'll update it for the whole county.
And are we able to verify that they've updated the data? I mean, we send it to them. Are you able to go in and
Yeah,
audit them? to see
they
that
actually
they're
have to
doing their job?
flush all our data out, and we put it all back in.
No.
So, yeah, it's very apparent that they've done an update.
Any other questions? Credit cards, or any questions? Anyone in the audience, question on this? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That's excellent. There are no items from previous meetings, and so we'll move on to the consent calendar, item number 3.
I move approval of consent calendar.
The motions are a second. Okay, Becky?
Second.
Second, can you move second? Are there any cards on it?
There's no cards.
Okay. All right.
Roll call
Roll
vote.
call vote.
Councilmember Bowling.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Wyrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Rollins.
Aye.
And Mayor Titus.
Aye. Okay. Okay. There is no public hearing, and public communication, anything for the public? It's not on the agenda.
I have one card from the Hartshine Foundation, the founder Sierra Barnes.
Hello, Town Council and community members. My name is Sierra Barnes, and I'm the owner, founder, and co-director of Miss Hartshine. Some of you may be aware that I founded Miss Hartshine as my Paradise High School senior project back in 2012. It was very successful, to say the least, and it continues to grow. I'm very humbled with the overwhelming support we have received, and we currently have over 40 title holders, active Royal Court community members throughout Northern California, but we also have our first national state queen in Pennsylvania. Thanks to the continued support of the community, we are proud to be processing our application to become a legal 501c3 nonprofit organization. This foundation has given opportunities to dozens of community girls like the ones you see before you that will be speaking to you today to tell you a little bit more about Hartshine. And the first girl I'd like to tell you about is Miss Jenny.
Hartshine holds many theme and main pageants throughout the year, and that is how we increase our numbers of new Hartshine title holders, volunteers, and Hartshine family members.
Our main state pageant in February and the Heart Walk in September benefits the American Heart Association, but our other themed pageants, and even throughout the year, benefit many local charities. For example, we donated funds for our Silver Dollar Fair pageant. This made to our Butte County family who hold their homes in a fire.
All of these winners of the pageants are encouraged to participate in many community service events and activities through the Rain Comes Hartshine royalty members have participated in thousands of hours of local and natural community service since Hartshine was founded in 2011.
Along with individual projects throughout the year, our directors organize many local events that we participate in as a group. Volunteering is never required with Hartshine, so the people that do sign up for the events really want to participate. You may have seen us at our Princess Storytelling booth at Johnny Appleseed Days. In our float in the Gold Nugget Days Parade, collecting canned food for the Christmas truck, light parade, Christmas caroling at senior care homes, and hospitals, just to mention a few. We also help out at many events for other organizations such as the Cruisin' Classics Car Show, Smoothie Purse Auction for Orville Rescue Mission, donate blankets to the Torres Shelter in Chico, serve at the United Methodist Church English Tea, Women of the New Fashion Show, Bear on the Ridge fundraiser for Sawmill Peak, Paradise Pines, Women's Club Ice Cream Social, and many others. Speaking of the Paradise Pines Women's Club, we are proud to announce that this organization has recently gifted us $500 so we can fund and complete our process of becoming an official 501c3 nonprofit organization.
I'm Sarah Calder, and I'm Miss Heartshine Talent Queen for 2013. And I've been very involved in music and the performing arts. And whenever community events call for a national anthem singer, I'm always happy to represent my Heartshine family and my community. Because with Heartshine, our community comes first.
As co-director, while Sierra's away at college, my hat gets a little bigger. It's an honor to work with these amazing girls and their families, and I do my best to line up volunteers as requested for each and every event we're asked to attend, if at all possible. This makes for a very full calendar. I do have copies of just what we have booked for the year. New requests come in all the time, and we're happy to try to fit those in. So in closing, we would like to thank you very much for your time to speak here today. And now I would like to present our official request for your consideration today. To allow Heartshine to be able to utilize the other half of the building owned by the town at 5456 Black Olive Drive, which is the other side of the building that's currently occupied by the Chocolate Fest organization. We would like to use the unit for our board meetings, event planning, and Heartshine headquarters, as well as for our dress closet for gown sharing, so our title holders here don't have to spend money on appropriate outfits to wear to all of the events throughout their reign. We currently have over 70 gowns and dresses already donated to the cause to date, but we have nowhere to store or display them. We also have tradesmen that have volunteered to clean and set up the office so it's safe and appealing for use. Thank you.
So what are the titles of each one of these? Silver, Star Princess?
Well, we have smaller state pageants or smaller community-themed pageants throughout the year. Our big events are our Miss Heartshine State, which is held in February, which has previously been held at the Senior Center for both years. We would love to continue use at the Senior Center, but we may be outgrowing it in just a few months. And some of these girls are from our state pageant, and some of them are from our local themed pageants, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their titles. Sarah?
Well, like I said, I'm Sarah Calder, and this summer I competed in a very fun pageant. And I have the honor of having the title of Talent Queen for 2013.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and I'm your 2013 Silver Star Princess.
Hi, my name is Adalis Perez. I'm your current 2013 Summer Princess.
Hi, my name is Jessica Hernandez. I'm your current Little Miss Silver Sparkle Queen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Shaw, and I am your current Miss California Heartshine Junior Team Congeniality.
Great. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
We'll go ahead and then to move on to our agenda to item number 7A. Consider adopting resolution 1344, a resolution of the town council, the town of Paradise accepting the work performed under the Billie Road Overlay, proposing a firm project. Construction cost $78,367, PID $32,000, and town gas tax $46,267.
This item will be brought to you by Mark Maddox, Associate Civil Engineer.
Good evening, Council. Again, my name is Mark, the Associate Engineer for the Town of Paradise. And tonight, as we mentioned, we are here to accept the project for the Billie Road Overlay between Posey and Fern. A few background notes. Billie Road and this section between Posey and Fern represent one of our town's most constant maintenance issue. In addition, PID pulled an encroachment permit for a water line replacement project, and it only added to the degradation of the road. On June 11th, council awarded a contract to Folsom Lake Asphalt. And on June 19th, PID actually allocated $32,000 to the project in lieu of final paving of their trenches. I just kind of broke down, if you want to go back a little bit, the project funding for this effort. It's a unique collaboration between the town of Paradise and Paradise Irrigation District, where they contributed 40% of the project cost. Had the town been asked to pay for the entire project cost, we just don't know if the gas tax could bear that type of expense. But with their contribution, we were able to find a solution which worked best for the road section. Here's a quick picture of before and after. So tonight, we're just asking council to adopt a resolution accepting the project, which starts the 35-day waiting period for retention fees. With that, if council has any questions,
Questions, council?
No questions, just, those guys did a great job getting in and out, and it was very quick and done very professional, so good job on.
Pretty happy with the job Folsom Lake did. I mean, it's the first time we've used them up here.
It was our first time using them, and the way I'd like to kind of represent their work is any job has an adjustment period, and with a one-day job, it's kind of a one-shot to get it right smooth the first time. And I think we just had a slower start than we would have liked on that day, but all in all, we had a safe project, and the product that we got is really good. So.
Looks great, and people have been very complimentary. They just want to know when you can fix the rest of it.
Yeah.
Well, the people on Dean Road have been asking for it.
Right.
They gotta get PID to tear up their road.
Yeah, they did a great job. Is there any cards on this?
No cards?
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we accept the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Roll call
Need a
vote.
roll call vote?
Sorry.
Councilmember Boland?
Aye.
Culleton?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lutter?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings? Mayor Titus?
Aye.
Resolution 1344 adopted as presented.
Okay, item 7B, consider adopting resolution 1745. Resolution of the town council of the town of Paradise authorizing the town manager to execute a memorandum of understanding between the city of Chico, Oroville, Gridley, and the town of Paradise for AB 109 funds are available to offset the cost of frontline law enforcement resulting from AB 109 legislation that shifted certain prison responsibilities to the counties.
Thank you. And our police chief, Gabby, is not here today, so this item will be presented by Al Billington, Lieutenant Al Billington.
As you know, in 2011, the governor tried to, they passed a bill, AB 109, that would reduce the prison population in the state prisons and basically put the responsibility on the local agencies, specifically probation. During this process, they've discovered that there is an impact to local agencies that with these people being released on their, according to AB 109, that it is impacting our departments, and so they decided to provide over the state of California $24 million for the project, and basically we're looking at getting $40,000 for offsetting the cost that it takes to deal with the AB 109.
And that's just for this fiscal year?
Yes. And this will be for the next 3 years that we're slated for $40,000.
Thank you.
40,000 each year? How are those funds allocated? Is it based on population? Is it based on number of prisoners released in our city, or how does that all work?
I don't know.
Okay.
The chief did the research on this, but I'm assuming that it's based on how many AB 109s we have in the county, and then
each town that's, my understanding after looking at this chart, each town is allocated so much money, and it looks like Paradise is due to receive $40,250 for a police officer salary, $5,000 for gang task force overtime, and $7,680 for the REMS program to bring us on board. REMS program, the computer program that links our records with Orville and Ridley and Pico. So looks like we're getting $52,930. Is that correct, Ms. Manager?
That is correct, actually. He was just talking about the amount, the 40,000 that will be available for a police officer position if we went that route.
Right, but we would have to wait and collect a couple of years to pay for one police officer.
My question would be, okay, so the state's allocating this money to our department, 40,000 for a police officer. Is that restricted?
No, I'm going to have to step in here a little bit, and the chief was going to, could not make it here tonight to talk about this item. But it's a little interesting in that the money is going to the counties, and the counties then allocated it to the police chiefs in the different counties. And so the amount that we got overall was about $52,900 for these different projects. So the $40,000 is what we allocated towards maybe a police officer or someone, or maybe even overtime if we had to use it for overtime. But we don't have to allocate it towards a police officer, but we did have to follow the strict guidelines the police chiefs did of this funding source.
Well, that was my question, real simply, because it says in the report that the state's giving you money and 40 grand is for a police officer. And so is that restricted? You're saying, no, it's not, we can spend it other ways. You know, I get that it costs 70, 80,000 for a cop. You know.
Well, I don't want to say that we can spend it however we want. There are really very strict guidelines that the chief has laid out. So she laid it out here to us and recommended it this way in accordance with the strict guidelines of the funding source. So 40,000 could go towards a police officer position. And I think the reason why she laid it out like this, because in the very beginning, when they first talked about this funding, you couldn't hire a police officer position. And I was saying that that's the thing that we would need and we would want to put it towards, either overtime or police officer position. And she did come back and say, yes, we could use the money for that. Now, obviously, that will not pay for a police officer position for a year. It pays for half of one. Maybe it pays for a community service position that goes into the school. I don't know exactly what that would pay for, but we can use it. We can put it aside for a position. If we got a grant, for instance, we could use it as leverage to get a grant where they pay half the salary. Or we could keep it for overtime, I believe, for certain gang-related and AB 109 related police activities. I think I got that right.
Yes.
Did I get that right, Lieutenant?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, since this is laid out in such a manner that it looks like we're approving to use it for a police officer, I mean, that's the way it's written. Yeah, I have a problem saying yes to this, because I don't want to tie our hands saying this is what it's got to be for, because the presentation tonight, the way this is presented, is that $40,250 is for a police officer position. It doesn't give us any flexibility. It's $40,000 for that, $5,000 for overtime, is the way it's laid out.
So is it an existing police officer or a future hire?
What she says in there, she says it's in line with the grants guidelines, and what she's saying that it be placed in a restricted fund for AB 109 as a budget line item with the specific intent of hiring a police officer later this year. That's what she's saying about the 40,000.
Well, we don't have to hire a police officer with that money, but we do want to enter into the MOU at some point here very quickly and accept the money so we get that money put into our account.
Well, okay.
We do not have to, this does not make you hire a police officer.
But Lauren, you're saying that, but this is saying what's written here, like Tim said, this is what the police chief is, this staff report is saying, is that this is the way the funds, within the guidelines of the grant, the funds are, the police chief is allocating these funds. He's going to use them. And you're saying, yeah, that's what it says, but we don't have to do that. We're going to maybe do something else with the 40 grand. And that causes me a concern. You know, I like what the chief's written. I don't have a problem with what she's submitted. And I understand that we need to take an action on this in order to get the county to give up the money, you know, but it's just,
Dwight, is there a way we can change the language in this, or do we have to?
Well, I spoke with the police chief, and she indicated that the police chiefs agreed on this among themselves, and that's the way it's supposed to work. If you want to deviate from it, it probably will need to go back, and there's no assurance that the other police chiefs will agree. Each city, I noticed, is receiving the same amount for the police officer's salary. And it doesn't have to be, it's not enough to actually hire anyone at this time.
No, it's not.
But the funds would be available in the future if you did want to hire.
So essentially what this does, put it in the savings account, which doesn't really help the department. What I don't want to do is vote for something that locks the money up, and this gives us no flexibility. I'd rather table this to bring it back so the language can be changed, because otherwise, if we vote yes on this, this is locking for a police officer only.
Well, it is my understanding there's not a lot of flexibility with this funding. It is my understanding.
And is it use it or lose it?
yeah, that's the deal. No
Is it
problem.
or is it not?
We're dealing with the county, you know, in other words, if these funds are available, we need to go ahead. I share your concern, but we need to go ahead and get the money here.
This is-
Whether we gotta put it in the savings account, you know.
Yeah, this is different than most grants that we apply for and then we spend and then they reimburse. This will be money that will be allocated and put in our budget, and that is where we would like to at least keep it until we decide. This will not make us hire a police officer. I can guarantee you that, because I did speak to the police chief about that specifically. Because I knew that this was
Even
not
if we
something.
couldn't use it for something else,
Um,
even if we couldn't use it for something else, at least it would be in our bank account,
That's what
not
I'm
in the
saying.
county of Butte's bank account for the state.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I don't know, actually, to tell you the truth, because the chief isn't here, if it's a use it or lose it. I would imagine if you don't use it according to the guidelines of the funding source, this is more like something that was passed by the voters, so it's not a grant like you apply for that's set up.
And Chico actually is going to have the money and control it and disperse it based upon those items that you have listed in the memorandum of understanding. So if you want money, you submit something to Chico requesting money, but it has to be for these purposes.
It was my understanding, Dina, correct me if I'm wrong, that we would have that money in our police account.
My understanding that the money is,
Yeah, in my discussions with the chief, at least when we conceptually tried to review this, we would be, in essence, putting the 40,000 in reserve for this current fiscal year, and then potentially using it next fiscal year or at the end of this fiscal year in order to potentially hire an officer. So again, I guess I'm agreeing with Councilman Colleton that and the manager, that it doesn't require that we hire someone immediately, but it does provide some funding if we make that decision down the line. So I think her vision was that if we received another $40,000 for next fiscal year, we could put the two 40,000s together, which would in turn fund an officer for a full year.
Potentially, or we could also use it as leverage to hire a police officer if we got the grants, the COPS grants, or some of the other funding out there available.
Right.
And does it have to be a new hire? I mean, because chances are that we're going to have an officer leave the department within the next year, and we're going to need to hire to replace him. We really can't go below where we are. So there, we hired somebody new, and we can use the 40,000 for that. So I think it's just kind of a no-brainer. Let's take the money, put it in the bank, and we'll find a way to spend it.
Yeah, that's fine, as long as it doesn't trigger anything that we're trying to decide. If we put it in the bank, that's fine, but
Well, if we can hire a police officer for the entire year for $40,000, you know, that'd be wonderful. But I don't think that's going to happen, and we don't have the money to make up the rest of them, so.
all right. Any cards?
No cards.
Okay.
I'll move approval as presented.
Second. Any other comments from anyone?
Sorry.
Go ahead, roll call.
Councilmember Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Cohen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lauder,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
Mayor Titus.
Aye. Okay.
Next, resolution 1344.
We'll have some more clarity on that at the next meeting in case we have to go ask questions.
1345.
Item 7C, consider approving the recommended budget adjustments for the 2013-14 year. The adjustments will result in $60,000 increase in the general fund net income to the general fund reserves.
Tina will present this item.
Thank you. Good evening, council. So as you know, our 2013-14 operating and capital budget was adopted June 25th, 2013. Each month, staff will be doing analysis and looking at trends that may develop with revenues and expenses for the fiscal year and how those trends or those transactions impact our adopted budget. So this evening is the first of a series of reports related to that budget. So the first item that I'd like to discuss is property tax receipts. So as of this actual meeting, we're still expecting one final property tax payment to conclude our 2012-13 fiscal year. So at this time, receipts are basically as we had expected. We are seeing a little bit of growth in general supplemental, which is very good news, which is showing that the housing market is improving and that we do have homes in our community that are starting to turn around. So at this point, though, it's premature for us to try to do any kind of adjustments to our 2013-14 numbers. Moving on to sales tax receipts, we are continuing to show some modest growth in sales tax receipts. We are still expecting to receive a couple more payments before the 12-13 fiscal year is actually concluded. But as of our last report, revenues were increasing about 3% for that fiscal year. HDL analysis of sales taxes through March 31st, 2013 indicated a 1.7% growth in revenues and a 9.4% growth in point of sale revenues for 13 quarters. So again, we are starting to see some improved sales tax growth. All of this data combined brings forward a recommendation for a $15,000 increase in sales taxes for the 2013-14 fiscal year. Moving on to real property transfer taxes. So our final payment was received for 2012-13, which shows growth in that area and that particular account of 34% for the 2012-13 fiscal year. Again, very good sign that the housing market is improving and that homes are selling. So these numbers support us increasing the 2013-14 budget by about $3,200. Related to expenses, the Town of Paradise recently settled a lawsuit that allowed for the collection of related attorney fees and some staff time. So as a result, staff recommends making an $11,301 adjustment to general fund revenues and a $1,463 adjustment to building safety and wastewater revenues. In addition, staff recommends increasing general fund expenditures by about $10,838 to cover the cost of outside legal counsel for that case. Another part of this settlement will be realized in about a month, and we'll be bringing forward additional budget adjustments at that time. As directed by council, a budget appropriation is recommended in the amount of $2,525 for the registration of all council members attending the annual League of California Cities Conference, which is to be held September 18th through the 20th. Council members, as I understand, will cover their own costs of travel and lodging. Recently, our administrative analyst position was filled on August 5th, 2013, and we have been awarded a $6,000 reimbursement for hiring that position through a program through Alliance for Workforce Development. There's a program that reimburses for the costs of hiring and some salary expenses. So that was good news for that particular hire, so that is a budget recommendation brought forward. Our final firefighter has transitioned to CAL FIRE employment as of July 29, 2013. So all of that employees' accruals have been used, but there is a pending final payout of some holiday time in the amount of a little over $1,500 that's recommended as an additional appropriation adjustment. Related to police department operations, police operations has realized about $3,000 in salary savings from an officer being out on a long-term workers' comp case. That officer has now been released and is again assigned to shifts. And in analyzing overtime related to police operations, everything at this point in time with 1 month complete is running in accordance to budgeted numbers. At this point, though, staff doesn't recommend making any adjustments to personnel numbers until we get a little more history behind us in that area. In the police department dispatch area, we currently have 3 vacancies in the public safety communications division. The first 2 positions will likely be filled in about 2 to 4 weeks. The final position in about 4 to 6 weeks. Most of the savings from those vacancies have already been included in the budgeted numbers. So at this point, there's no additional budget recommendation recommended. We are seeing a little expense in overtime and per diem dispatch numbers, a little bit above budget. But again, I would recommend that we not adjust those numbers until we have a little more history behind us. Moving on to animal control, as we all know and recognize, this continues to be a fund that the town is looking for a long-term solution and continuing operations and funding. Personnel costs have been analyzed in light of the recent retirement of the 36-hour animal control officer. And while there's expected to be about $9,000 in salary and benefit savings related to that temporary vacancy until that position is filled, that person will be entitled to retiree medical. So that adds almost $9,000 in expenses. So in essence, there's not much of a savings there. And finally, in the state gas tax fund, Fund 2120, inadvertently we had left out $4,500, which is the cost of replacing the associate engineer's computer. So we would request that that adjustment be made to the budget. So overall, I think the recommendations that we're bringing forward for council's consideration are positive. All of these will result in a general fund net income for the 2013-14 fiscal year of about $19,500. So that is an improvement of $16,673 compared to what was adopted just about a month ago. May I answer any questions?
Are there any questions?
On the under other financial information, reading the communications for the RDA, the state says one thing, we say another thing, we're right, they're wrong, but it looks like they win. So,
Yeah, so my understanding of, if I may elaborate a little bit on this transaction and what had occurred. So, from my perspective, the official dissolution of the RDA occurred January 31st, 2012. This particular transaction occurred prior to that, but according to state law, legislature, the dissolution was officially prior to that January 31st, 2012. Dwight, correct me if I'm wrong, what does the state officially, when was the?
Well, what happened is they had a statute that said you couldn't do anything after a certain date, prior to the date you actually dissolved the development agency. So anything that happened after that date, they're disallowing.
But we still get that money, we still get that money
Right,
back.
so this was what had occurred was, in order for the RDA to make debt service payments, at the time it was necessary to get a short-term cash flow loan from the town. It was transferred to the RDA loan. Then as soon as the payment came in from the county, those funds were transferred back to the town. So basically, the finding of the state is that that transaction is disallowed. So we will be repaid for this $55,000. It's just going to take a little time.
So we still get it back.
Yeah.
But just so everybody understands, we get paid out of the tax increment. And the deal is, our RDA was brand new, and there's not, and the property values are being what they are. There's not a lot of tax increment. So all of our other loans, the bonds or any of that other stuff, they come first, and the town's loan is down below those. And unless there's enough money, even though the state just, got rid of RDA and took all the money, if we don't have enough money to pay the debt, the state, nobody else is saying, well, we're going to pay it. It's just on us. So we'll get it back, but it may be a while until the tax increment builds up. It's way goofy.
And in the meantime, though, it is listed on the, as an asset on our books, correct?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So we will be listing these, all of these obligations now on our recognized obligation payment schedule. It's just as.
And we did all along. And
Yes.
even though the state told us in the beginning that you could not even list these things. You couldn't even put them down as an obligation, And we did anyway with Dwight's advice and Gina's good work. We went ahead and told them, no, it's a real debt, it's a real debt. So now they're going to pay us.
My only concern, and I know it's probably worthless for me to say it, but I'm going to say it. I don't trust the state. From this perspective.
I'm shocked.
I know. They turn around, they make us spend everything we get, actually, to give it away to all these other organizations. And how are we supposed to get our money back when they punish us by saying, well, if you don't give it away, we're going to take it away from your property tax? I mean, so how we may all be dead by the time the state ultimately gives us the money. Having it on the books, I mean, do we have any appeal process? I mean, this is ridiculous. This was a temporary loan to bridge them. This was not it wasn't like we gave it to the RDA for their investments.
Well, obviously, we're going to continue to argue our position and continue to show them that these are valid loans that need to be repaid.
We're on the track to doing that. We just have to take it to the oversight board and get some things acted upon to reactivate everything. So that eventually we get repaid. We're at the mercy of the state. Redevelopment agencies are a little different from the city. They were subdivisions of state government. The city's not a subdivision of state government. So the RDAs were created by the state legislature, and it determined that it wanted to terminate. And so it's a long story, but but we're in a position now to reactivate loans and get repaid. I don't know when that happens, but when they'll get repaid. I'm pretty certain we're going to be able to react.
When there's enough money in the tax increment to pay.
Yes, so it'll take some time.
There are a number of lawsuits, Tim, just for your, there are a number of cities that filed lawsuits against the state challenging this. One or two have already been decided. Most of the suits are being heard in federal court in Sacramento, and so far they've been the judges have come down on the side of the state so far. But there's a number of cities that filed suit against that because they were in the same boat. They loaned money to the RDA, and then the state just took everybody's.
Okay, well, let's go on to your thing. Okay, is there any cards on this? No cards. Is there a motion?
Move that we accept the recommendations.
Is a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Boland.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Waters.
Aye.
Councilmember Long.
Aye.
Mayor Titus.
Aye. All right, 17.
Thanks for joining us.
7D?
Okay. Let's see. Let's get this thing. All right.
7D.
7D. Review and consider approving, 1, an amended job description for the senior financial services clerk. 2, an amended job description for the housing program supervisor. 3, amending position control and budget appropriation for senior financial services clerk and housing supervisor program supervisor.
Okay, well, this is one of those items where we're trying to replace 2 people with 1 temporarily, and I think we have a good chance of doing that. I spoke with Gina, and I also spoke with Kate upstairs in housing. We have a senior financial services clerk who will be retiring in December. So we will need to replace that position, very critical for our operation. Also, we just received 2 housing grants, and so Kate upstairs needs some help with that to spend that money, because you do not get the money in if you don't make the loans and spend the money first. So she needs some help with the 2 grants. Now, what we have decided to do is hire a person that could actually fill in upstairs for Kate until such time that Virginia retires in December. In that way, that person will be acclimated and will be somewhat trained, will be familiar with our financial software and programs, and will be easier to then fill into the position in December.
So it's grant funded?
It is grant funded until such time that it switches over to finance. And then we will hold out a couple hours, 8, maybe 6, 8, 10 hours a week for the housing operations. And then that way we don't have to hire someone for housing and then let them go. Because if you don't have the work upstairs, then the position goes. So it's really hard to fill someone on an hourly basis. We had a great person in Kathy Messenger in that she only wanted to work those few hours, and she has since moved on and cannot fill in for the position any longer. So this is just a way to not kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but fill 2 positions with 1 person.
Any questions from council? No? Any cards? No cards. Is there a motion?
I move approval of item 7.
D.
D.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culliton,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lauder,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
and Mayor Titus.
Aye. Okay, moving on. Item 8A, consider authorizing supplemental budget allocation in the amount of $2,525 to cover registration costs for council members' attendance in the cities, September 18th through the 20th, Sacramento. The member cities, the registration cost is $525 per participant. And 2 of the members already registered early at $475. They got discount.
No cards?
Any comments?
I probably won't be attending that, so.
But didn't we already approve this? We've already done this. This is redundant.
You didn't do you didn't make a formal motion to do a
It was part of
budget
the.
appropriation.
It was
part of the-
included in the budget adjustment.
It's included in the budget. It was already included in the budget. This is true.
Okay, skip this item. Move on to 8B.
Well, wait a minute, I don't know if it makes any difference, but there are 2 early payers, actually there are 3. I just looked it up the other day. I don't think it makes any difference.
No, it'll only be whatever it actually is. I mean, that was figured, whatever, and I think Gina figured the numbers pretty close. She knew who would pay early and possibly something. That was just all 5 minutes ago.
Good catch, Lynn.
Okay, thank you. All right, 8B, consider taking a position on the following proposed resolution scheduled for action at the League of Cities Council annual conference. 1, resolution calling on the governor, who all listen anyway, and the legislature to work with the League of Cities in providing adequate funding and to prioritize water bonds to assist local government in water conservation, groundwater recharge, and reuse of stormwater and urban runoff programs. And 2, resolution calling on the governor and legislature, they won't listen either, to enter into the discussion with the League of Cities and the League and the police chief Association representatives to identify and enact strategies that will ensure the success of public safety realignment from the local municipal law enforcement perspective.
I do not have anything on that.
Council, cards?
Cards?
Council? Anything? Or is there a motion?
Have we accepted as written?
So what is our positions?
This is what happened. The clerk got this letter from the League of Cities, and whether or not they've sent these out in the past, I don't remember. This year it said in the letter to all of us, it said, we suggest that you get your council to concur on this. These two things are brought by Southern California cities, they have big lobbying firms, all these other cities, both of these are good. I'm your voting delegate, John's your alternate. In the past, historically, if there was some item that we had some really impacted us, we would maybe take a vote so that the voting delegate could go say, my council voted this way. We've also attempted, when things don't really pertain to us, we just said, go vote your conscience. If it's good for the cities, so that's what this council has done in the past. My recommendation would be that we would vote yes on both of these. I've read through them extensively. Scott's been on the public safety one. The one on public safety is to try to get them to release even more funds. And there's actually the recent Superior Court decision where Brown got defeated. He has to release another 100,000 people. And when you look at AB 109, they're admitting now. Next week. And they're admitting now that there are all these loopholes. There's no definition of recidivism. The three thing, it does not. If you were a murderer in Nevada and you only had your three things in California were for car theft and pot and stuff, you'd be released to probation. So so they're looking. The legislature's actually looking at. They know they got a problem, and they're committing a whole bunch of millions of dollars the next few years. In addition to this little bit, we just chunk it.
Isn't that the federal prisoners?
No, they have to. We got sued by the inmates because they have these rights, and so we're overcrowded. And
Right.
so,
I thought the whole thing was the federal.
But the federal judge making them do it.
yeah. And so they have to release more, and so they're going to ship 8,000 out of state. Got a whole bunch of them are coming into our streets and cities as we speak. So anyway, our position should be in support of this. It's not. There's nothing here that's going to hurt us. The other
voted that way.
one on the stormwater stuff, the water board. When Dennis Schmidt was here, it's hideous what the new stormwater regulations are. And everybody, even the Little Hoover Commission, is saying, you know what? Nobody can afford this. It's just nuts what they're doing. And yet the water board is able to make rules, and they are enacted with.
They're not elected officials.
Yeah, it's just nuts. So we need to fight them everywhere we can. So
This is just our city voting as a block and saying yes.
and this could be a straw vote, right? Shouldn't that be a roll call vote, doesn't it?
We just have consensus.
Consensus and support.
All right.
Okay, let's move on then. Oral reports.
I didn't go anywhere or do anything, but I did have a Dutch oven cook-off and raised probably netted about $1,500 for Boys and Girls Club and the Gold Nickels.
Great. I didn't put any meetings, but we can try to figure what all things. I hadn't thought of meetings. John's been taking care of things.
Can I just have a request that next time either of you go to the BCAG, there is no place to buy a bus pass in this town but here, and here is only open 4 days a week till 1 o'clock. And we need to get BCAG to maybe get the senior center or some other facility to sell bus passes.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense.
And hopefully someplace that's
It's
near,
open.
well, it's open and maybe near a bus stop, or a bus stop.
A grocery store.
Well, it would make sense if they did it at a grocery store or where
the
it's.
chamber. The chamber's open 5 days a week.
No, that's open 4 days a week.
All right, any future items for the agenda?
10 to 3.
I have one report though on that committee on BCAD. They didn't meet in July, so the next meeting is going to be this month. I believe it's on the 22nd. It's going to be in Chico. So I'll talk a few about the bus passes.
You could also talk to them about those bus shelters that are in the wrong place, like PID and the post office.
Yeah.
Well, PID's been a problem too, they've asked them to move
Okay,
it.
and
They
then-
said they would move it themselves
Oh, they have-
and pay for the concrete, you know, putting in a new pad, putting it on the other side of the driveway so it doesn't block things, but they get nowhere with it.
Well, they also, you know, if you ride around, like you look at some of the bus stops that are really used a lot, like across from Beyond Fitness, or some of there's no shelters, there's no nothing, you know what I mean? And then you got these nice shelters and everything in places where nobody is. You know, very few people are.
It's a matter of easements, I think.
Craig, do you have anything? Nope. And the only thing we did is, we had 2 meetings, one with the Rotary and one to the Chamber, talking about budget and projects and things that were, so the public's getting a good feel for all the things council has done over the years to address the issues, so we're out ahead of Warville and Chico.
Yeah, I heard about the Chamberlain today. They said that there's a booming business on notice, but that could be just a rumor.
So that's basically our mini state of the town that the mayor is doing. It's really helping community groups get up to speed on things, so that's good.
And it looks like, do you have a report?
I certainly do.
Okay.
I have quite a few things to report on. Talk about no-dos. Did you take some?
Pass out the notice.
Okay. No, basically just a few things, but really exciting and interesting things. The first thing is the police cars came back from that place. Remember that we spent some money to overhaul.
Rose Motors.
Yes, to overhaul 2 police cars instead of buy 2 police cars, and they turned out fabulous. Al, do you want to just say a few words about that?
Sure, we had the pleasure of driving them back from LA, about 500 miles, and they drove like brand new cars. In essence, it was a frame of restoration, minus like the dash parts and the door inner panels, but the headliners to the floor mats and the upholstery was all. And I had the pleasure of driving the old K9 down there, which if you ever done a ride along with the K9, it smells. Odoriferous is polite.
It's because you spend so much time in animal control and
Exactly.
They probably figured you wouldn't even notice.
Right. And, but they were able to get that smell out of that car and put it back together, and it smelled like a brand new car.
So we're happy with the results.
Yes, we
Great.
are.
That's a good thing.
And like the manager said, they're in the process of getting the logos and stuff on there. And hopefully we'll have one by the end of this week.
I wanted to have pictures to show you, but I
And
didn't.
also, I talked to our mechanic, Wes, and he told me that we sold the surplus vehicle, and you're able to take that down and deliver it, so we saved some money, like we didn't have to pay for the drink down. It worked out, just everything worked out really well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, excellent.
Okay,
Are
so
we going
let's,
to do any more? We've done those 2. Do we have plans?
I think what we're going to do is try these cars out, give them the long-term test, if you will, and maybe budget next year if they turn out well. Budget next year for getting some more refurbished.
great
Let's
job.
test them out, see if you can get Belson to come up and work and drive them.
Great.
Okay, so the next item I have, the next exciting item I have, I should say, is, and this was kind of sad, our civil engineer intern Jose, his last day is going to be Monday, but he spent the summer with us, volunteering his time, and worked on the traffic survey. Did you want to say a few words about that?
Jose Gallardo, or Gallardo, do you want to stand up for a second? And I just really want to recognize him and say thank you for his hard work as far as an intern, let alone a free one for the town of Paradise. He exceeded every call of duty we had for him this summer. The traffic engineering and speed surveys, they're literally done. We're just waiting on one last study after Pearson Road is complete, and we can bring that back to council. But Jose has put in the hard work, collecting the data, analyzing the information, and just really exceeding all expectations we could have ever hoped for an intern. In addition, he helped out on inspection for a Pearson Rec project. He did AutoCAD work for us, working on our base map so we can help design more efficient and quick projects. Gosh, just about anything that we did this summer, Jose had his hand in, and so we are just very thankful and glad he could be part of the team.
That is fabulous. Thank you. So,
as a councilman, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. I had a chance to interact with him, and I know that between Mark and Lauren, you were given good direction on how to interact with an irate councilman like me. But I'll be glad to write a letter of recommendation for you to put in your portfolio. So.
That is just so fabulous. We really, really got
Yeah,
lucky with that.
I wanted to ask you, Jose, do you feel like you benefited from the internship, and would you recommend it to other engineering students from Chico State?
Oh yes, I learned a lot with Mark, especially with Mark. He's a really good engineer, and I would recommend it to anybody. It was great. I wouldn't mind volunteering again here.
Great,
Thank you.
excellent.
Write it down.
Now, this is something,
Get that recorded.
now, this is something the prior town engineer, Dennis Schmidt, he was really sweating the traffic survey. And he was really, nervous that we wouldn't be able to get that done. And we got Jose here to do it this summer while we did our huge Pearson Road project. Speaking of which, Pearson Road project, complete except for some minor adjustments. We'll be doing some minor construction through the end of September. And one of those things will be adding the flashing beacon lights to the crosswalk in front of the Gold Nugget Museum, which would be a fabulous addition, a very good safety addition. Also, we did a media blitz on that, so I don't know if you all saw it. If everyone hopefully in town has seen this. What we wanted to do was announce the end of our Pearson Road project, and we have a light there now. We have some changes there which is a big thing for our town, but also with the beginning of school, the first day of school. So we put the two stories together. We contacted the TV stations, the radio stations, the papers. We got it on the front page of the paper. We got it on both of the TV stations, the radio station, and we did just a great media blitz on that. Plus, the school district sent out the press release to their parents. So we have a lot of people now that know first day of school, have a plan, think about what you're going to be doing, and there are going to be some changes there. We also had a meeting out on site with the school district. We had the superintendent and his assistant, and because they have a lot of money, and we had the principals of both the schools out there, and we had the facilities manager. We had our contractor, we had Paul, we had Jose, and Mark. We were all out there, and we looked at the project. We looked at the machinations of the intersection, how the kids would be crossing, and we also had the school crossing guard out there, so she was able to see how this project would work. So it was a really good coordination effort, and again, a little way to wrap up our project and to get them thinking about the first day of school. The contractor then actually did a little grading project for them for free. They threw it in there and did a little walking path from the street into the school. So it's a great, great project. The superintendent is very happy with it, and hopefully the parents will be too. So great job.
When do we expect the flashing lights at the Gold Nugget Museum?
September-ish?
Yeah, September. There's a little bit of a lead time, but I don't want to commit to anything sooner, but we'll certainly get it in as soon as possible. The manufacturer of the flashing beacons, Carmana, I believe, out of California, has sometimes it can be up to 6 weeks, but they've known about this a long way. We had to wait for the funding to be there to afford these flashing beacons, and now we have confirmation today we can proceed.
Is that the new ones you were talking about?
Yes.
You told us
That'll be
about.
great.
It'll be a great pilot.
Far out, yeah, because that's what we want to put everywhere.
Mark, we talked about putting the reflectors at the heads of the crosswalk stripes. I noticed that hasn't been done. Is that just still on your list to?
It's on my list.
Okay.
It won't drop off, but thank you for the reminder.
Okay, all right, because we were doing that on the head of each of the crosswalk stripes.
Yeah, snowplow targets.
Well, yeah, but we understand about the snowplows. We don't plow Pearson Road often enough to have to worry about we could replace them, would you say 5 times over?
Yeah.
For the cost of indemnity.
So we've got the lights, the beacons will go across, and there'll be one in the center.
Not on Pearson.
No, on Pearson, it'll be the 2 lights on each side at Malin, which flash in both directions.
Okay.
But maybe
What I'm
on
talking about
Saturday
is just the reflectors we normally have in the road. You put, the dots, you put 2 on the traffic lane, in the direction of traffic. You put 2 or a couple of them at the head of each piece of the stripes. So it really accentuates that, and it gets something up, because there's when you're coming from Clark, the grade is such that the crosswalk is a little bit below the grade, and this, I think this will help us a little bit.
And then this is a nice segue to my last and final little report on the community pedestrian safety training workshop that's going to be held September 5th, 8 a.m. to noon at the Family Resource Center. Now, this is something, we're going to have a planning meeting on this Friday. This is something that we want 2 council members to attend, so we're hoping that tonight you can give me direction on who you would like to have there. I know John Rawlings has expressed interest in that. And basically what that is that there's some community stakeholders and business owners and people in the community who are interested in this will get together and meet. We'll do a walking audit, a walking tour, and then make some recommendations to the council and that will address our projects going forward on the Skyway with the HSIP grant. So again, if I can have 2 council volunteers, it will be September 5th is the workshop. This Friday, we're having another planning session on that. And I've been giving you my Friday reports. I've been giving you updates on this project.
And it's going to be here on the 3rd and the 5th.
That will be at the Family Resource Center up on the Skyway.
What time?
8 a.m.
I'd be glad that people are.
I'll be happy to do that. I've been on pedestrian safety for a while. I'm familiar with the studies and all the efforts we've tried. So.
Okay, great. We're going to get someone from the Planning Commission, hopefully Jody Jones. We have invited her. We've invited Doug Teeter. We have invited representatives from the hospital, the school district, some of the business owners, like I said before, and some of the organizations, other organizations in town will all be involved. And then hopefully it will result in some outreach and education that may go to the schools and help with the kids as far as pedestrian safety and help us in some engineering efforts when we are designing our project for the downtown. Very timely.
Put me down as an alternate as well.
Very good.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
8 a.m. is early.
And then again, not to lose sight of our other volunteers we had this summer. We had Sarah Gomez, who was a volunteer senior who helped us out all summer long, and then we have Tony Stott who volunteers and helps us out too after school and does some projects for us as well. So we've had some great volunteers that have been really helping us get some work done and get caught up, especially in the on-site department.
Then he's got those VIPS volunteers that are terrific, too.
We have our lovely bits that probably helped us out today a little bit too.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, then we'll go ahead and get into closed session. We'll be back in a little bit.
And the purpose of the closed session is
We all
to
listen.
pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95 relating to a liability claim filed by John Romali against the town and pursuant to Government Code Section 5495698. The council will hold a closed session concerning the following litigation: Town of Paradise versus Arthur J. Silverstein, Butte County Superior Court, case number 159786.